The immigrant accused of rape is on the run after a judge in Boston ignored federal requests to keep him detained. Our Fox station in Boston reported on the story. Here's part of it.
A dangerous drive home for a local woman after investigators say she was assaulted by her Uber driver, who used a fake name to register with the rideshare company. 34-year-old Luis Baez pled not guilty to 3 counts of rape. Prosecutors say the young woman was picked up using the app in Boston last September and driven to a location she didn't request. Baez allegedly raped her and then dropped her off at Boston College, where she reported the incident to campus police.
But it didn't end there. Newton District Court Judge Mary Beth Heffernan refused a request from prosecutors to set high bail for Baez. She released him after acquiring just $2,500. Now ICE agents are hunting for him. They say he's disappeared. Howie Carr writes for the Boston Herald, hosts a daily radio show, one of the most famous men in New England, also the author of the book Kennedy Babylon. He joins us tonight. Howie, thanks a lot for coming on. This story almost, sounds like something that you'd make up. It sounds like a parody. How did this happen? Is it what it seems?
Yeah, I think this is a pattern that's repeating itself all over the country, Tucker. In this case, the guy is an illegal alien, once deported, a Dominican, purportedly a gangbanger in the city of Boston, and he's operating under an alias, as you just heard. And so they bring him in, and the prosecutor, an assistant district attorney from a very liberal county, works for a very liberal Democrat district attorney, comes in there and says, we want $100,000 bail on this guy because he's a flight risk, and ICE has asked us to make sure that he's held because they're going to put a detainer on him to make sure that he can't escape, and we want a GPS. The judge, a political appointee of former Governor Deval Patrick, another very liberal Democratic politician, doesn't even listen to the entire argument by the employee of a liberal Democratic district attorney, and says $2,500 bond, and then says, can he make the bond here at the courthouse so he doesn't have to go back to jail? She didn't want to inconvenience him in the least. So he makes the bond, and that was 9 days ago, and nobody has seen him since. He's vanished.
Remarkable.
Everything that
it's this tension. Okay, so when it really comes down to it, when the left is pushed, in this case a liberal judge, to balance the rights of women, which they say they stand for, with the so-called rights of illegal aliens, the latter wins. $2,500 for bail on a rape charge? Have you heard of that before?
No, well, it's happening around the country, Tucker. There was a case in New York City last week. A Dominican woman was charged with pleaded guilty to stealing $35,000 worth of Victoria's Secret products, and the judge tried to block photographers from taking her picture out in the hall of the courthouse. He said, you're just going to get her deported. He tried to stop them. You had a case in Portland, Oregon in January where a Mexican illegal alien was in court for a hearing for a drunk driving case. The ICE agents were out in the hall waiting for him to come out so they could grab him, put a detainer on him, and throw him out of the country. Somebody let him out of the back door of the courtroom. We had another case in Springfield, Western Mass here last year. A Dominican bodega owner was pleading guilty to stealing $35,000 worth of food stamps, welfare fraud. And he came into the court, and the judge said in an open courtroom, you know, if you were an American, we'd be sentencing you to some serious jail time, but we don't want to get you deported, so we're not going to give you any jail time. And the guy got probation, stealing $35,000. The woman in Manhattan, she didn't do any jail time. She didn't do restitution. She didn't do any community service. I mean, it's like there's a double standard here. In many cases, illegal aliens or non-citizens are treated better than Americans.
My jaw is open because, we've already moved past the point where the left is arguing that we shouldn't enforce immigration law to a point where they're showing favoritism to people who are breaking the law because they're breaking the law. Where does this go from here?
I don't know where it goes. I just chronicle it all the time. Tucker, we had a case, another one in Massachusetts here, an illegal alien from Ecuador. Was drunk, and he ran over an American motorcyclist in the town of Milford in central Massachusetts. They hired a court psychologist. We, the taxpayers, hired him, and he wrote a report, and he said this guy should not be held accountable. An illegal alien on welfare, drunk driving, should not be held accountable for his drunk driving because he's of, quote, Mongoloid descent. That's what they said. He's an Indian, in other words. And so he lacked the enzyme to metabolize the alcohol, so he wasn't responsible for killing the American citizen while he was in the country legally driving drunk. I mean, again, this is going on every day in the country.
No, what? This is why I always find it hard to listen to your radio show, because I'm mesmerized by it. I'm afraid I'm going to hit a bridge abutment while I'm listening to it. Howie Carr, thanks for coming on tonight. That really, you blew my mind.
Thank you, Tucker.